Hey, what's up? Today we're going to be working on a 2006 Mercedes E350. We're going to be changing the cam solenoid magnets, also known as the cam solenoid adjusters. I have a few different names for them. There are 4 of them on this engine, and sometimes you'll get an engine code. In my case, I just have a slight leak around 2 on the driver's side. So we're going to look at how to change those out. They're pretty simple to get. They're only about $27 for an original part. So I'm going to walk you through the steps, and actually on the driver's side, the side I'm working on, they're a little bit more difficult. Okay, so this is the part I'm going to be using. You can see the part number there, and it's you can see it says magnet on here. So this is a cam solenoid, and this is what it's going to look like, about the size of it. And I'll show you where those are located on the front of the engine. Alright, so standing in front of the engine, the first thing you're going to do is remove this piece here, and you're just going to be lifting up the front of that on both sides, and that'll come right off, and pull that out of the way. Alright, so if you look on this is the passenger side over here. If you look over here, you'll see where they're located once you see those part numbers. So here's one right here, and then the other one is located back here, so underneath there. And those are pretty easy to get to. You just need to move a couple connections out of the way. So those are not too bad. However, on the driver's side, if we go over to this side, you'll see there's a couple things. So there's one here, and then the other one is located behind the oil cooler. This is the oil cooler here. The other one's located right here. It's kind of behind that. So there's a couple of screws that are hard to get to. So that's why these two are a little more difficult to get to. But you can see there's a little bit of oil seepage around the gasket on mine. So I'm going to have to change those out because they got a little bit of a leak on those. First thing, I'm just going to take this the air connection off. That just pulls off. I'm going to actually use both hands, and I'm just going to pull that off, and that'll give us a little more access. The other one's it's behind this power steering reservoir here. So there's a couple ways to do this. You can unclip and unscrew both the power steering reservoir, which is kind of messy because it's going to drain out the hole on the bottom, and also the oil cooler as well. Some oil is going to drain out of there, and there's a gasket in there. So I'm going to try to, there's a way to access those 2 bolts with a smaller wrench. So I'm going to try that first. So hopefully I can do that without removing both of those. Okay, so the tools we're going to start off with, at least, so this is a small ratchet and extension, and this is an E8. It's a Torx end. You can see the end is going to fit on those screws in there, but they're a Torx bit, so you're going to need that. It's E8. And the other thing we're going to be using is a 1/4 inch small combination wrench. This actually will fit on those Torx head screws, and we're going to try to use this to get those out without removing the oil cooler and the power steering reservoir. So we'll start off with those tools. There may be some others we find along the way. The first thing you're going to want to do is get these connectors undone. So a little trick to it here is to get I have a little hook screwdriver, and you're going to pull this the light gray tab. You're going to pull that up. So when it starts down, it's down there. I've already pulled it up a little bit. Then what you got to do is you got to kind of reach under here, and you can see in this slot here, this little thing here, you're going to hook under that. When you pull under that, then you can separate this off, but I'm going to need 2 hands to do it. But basically, you can see once you got that gray slider up there, then you can see that little tab. You can hook under that, and that's what will release it. And you can see now that I've got it apart, what that little hook is just on this little thing right here, that little hook. So you're just lifting that plastic thing right over that. And that's what you're going to do on all these connectors. So I'm going to go ahead and undo all those now. Okay, I've got those connectors out of the way here. That was on here. I can see we got this one here, and then this one's the hard one because it's down hidden behind here. Over here behind the power steering we've got one here, and then we've got the one that's hard to get to, that's down there. So I'm going to work on taking out the top two and see if we can get those bottom ones out without removing those two components. Okay, so I was able to get that out. What I did is I took this connector off to give myself a little bit more room. You're going to push in this part here to be able to, there's a little tab that goes right in there, and that little notch right there. So by pushing the top of this, you can pull that out and release that. Then what I did is I took my 1/4 inch combination wrench, and it did fit right on, perfectly on there. You can see if I put it on this one as well, it fits on there perfectly. So that gave me enough room to be able to get in there and remove that screw. So now what I'm going to do is take out these other two with the same wrench or the Torx bit, whatever one's easiest to get in there. Okay, I was able to get all three of those out. This is loose. I find that this is in the way for sliding it out. So all I'm going to have to do is same thing, put the Torx bit on there and take this connector off just to get it out of the way, and then I can slide that out of there. So I'm going to take that off right now. Alright, so I've got that out of the way, and then I've got this loose. Should be able to just drop this in here. There's just barely enough clearance to get that out of there. So you can see I've got the old one out. Just enough clearance to slide that out. Now I'm just going to reverse the process on that one and put the new one in. I guess the gasket must have just hardened up around the outside rim. You can see I've got a little bit of leakage there. Other problems on the engines, most of the time when these fail, you get some engine codes on them. I'm not exactly sure what the codes are, but it's the same process. You're just changing out these cam solenoid magnets. Okay, so I've got the that one back on here. I put the clips back on, put this back in, and reapplied the connector. Actually, on all three of those, I used the 1/4 inch combination wrench. The only time I used the Torx bit was to remove this electrical connector here. But on all three of those, it was easier just to use the 1/4 inch combination wrench and connect it back up. So it wasn't too bad. You just have to be careful, very careful not to lose those screws when you drop, or make sure you don't drop them down in the engine. Okay, so now I'm going to work on getting these three out here and see if I can get this out without removing the power steering reservoir. I'm going to work on see if I can get that bottom one out first. Okay, so same as with the other one, the first thing I'm going to do is after I remove the electrical connector, I'm going to take this screw out here so I can remove this and get it out of the way. That gives me a little bit better access to get at the screw. So I'm going to take that out with the probably the Torx bit ratchet. I'll pull that out, and then I'll be able to get down at that other one. So I'm going to work on that first. Okay, as you can see, I undid the screw and I pulled that out of there. So I got that out of the way. Next thing I'm going to do is take my 1/4 inch combination wrench, and I'm going to work on this here. I'm going to need two hands to do it, but I'm going to get in there, and it fits right on there pretty easily. I'm just going to work that bottom one out, and then I'll work on the top two. Alright, so I got all three of those out without too much problem. The bottom one is real tight. There's not much room in there for your fingers to kind of get that out. But they come out, the screw itself comes out pretty easily. Now, when you get those out, this is going to be in here kind of tight, and what I do is I take kind of a screwdriver and just, you got to pry it out gently because it's kind of sealed in there. So it takes a little bit to kind of wiggle that, and the seal around it is a little bit tight. And just gently pry, because it's plastic so you don't want to break it, and just get around the edges of this with a small screwdriver until it's loose, and then it will slide out. So I'm going to work on that. I took the cap off here to just get a little, and I got it that loose. all around. I just kind of wiggle it around and gently pry the top of it there, and then now it's loose. And you can see there's just enough room, again, just enough room to slide that whole thing out of there. So you don't have to remove, so far we haven't had to remove the oil cooler or the power steering reservoir. So now I'm going to just reverse the process and slide that new one in there. As you can see, there's on mine there's oil around the edges and kind of down in here because the rubber gasket must have failed, so it's just kind of leaking. So I'm going to replace that and put it back together. Alright, it's really tough to get your fingers down in and hold that screw without dropping it, so I'm kind of paranoid about that. I've done it before. It's a pain. You can't find the screw when it drops down the engine bay. So I'm going to take some extra precautions here. I've actually got some tissue paper kind of stuffed in there, and just to protect, give me some extra protection from dropping that down in there. I'll remove this after I get it in there. I just need to, you got to get your fingertips and just get the thread started. Once you get it started, you're fine, but just getting that in that hole without dropping it, it's a little dicey sometimes, so you want to be real careful and not lose that screw. Okay, so I've got those 3 back in there and I tightened them up. I put this connector back in here, and so all I need to do now is kind of get this buttoned up. Put these last couple connectors on here. Put this one back on here, out of the way, and put that back up and tuck that back under there. And that's it. So that was a lot easier. Most of the instructions will tell you to remove this, and then you have to drain some of the power steering fluid and refill that, and deal with the oil cooler. But if you have those couple tools and small enough fingers, I guess, to get in there, it's a lot simpler to do it that way. I hope that helps.